anything which is repetitive for more than 1 hour in a week should be automated. That's my benchmark rule kind of thing.
Welcome everyone. We have another episode of Inside Finance here at Cashflow today, and we have a very illustrious speaker here with us today, Mr. Narayan Saraf, who's a CFO at HRI. He's been a stalwart in the finance industry over these years, having been across multiple corporates across industries, companies like CIPLA, Unilever, PharmEasy, and a few others. And, we're super excited to learn about your journey and hear about the, insights and the learnings you had over your career. So welcome here, Mr. Narayan.
Thanks for the invitation. Thank you very much. And guys, just let me tell, he's just being too kind and generous to me. Nothing like that.
No, so, would love to, start from the beginning, Narayan. The idea here of this podcast is to really bring out the incredible stories of, leaders in the financial domain. I feel there's a lot that, finance professionals can learn from, operators in various domains. And we felt that there wasn't enough conversation around how people have reached where they are and what were some of their decisions in life, how they took them, why they took them. And hopefully those can act as insights for, fledgling professionals as well. So that's the broad context. And given that, would love to start with understanding, right from the beginning, right? Tell us a little bit about your background, about your childhood, and we can go from there.
Yeah, sure. Why not? So, I'm a typical Kalmaru CA. So, born and brought up in Calcutta, south part of Calcutta, and had a great stay of 23 years in Calcutta. And during that time, a brief background about my childhood. My dad, he was into service for many years. Then he got into business, and then unfortunately passed away when I was pretty young. And then my mom, she's a typical Marwari homemaker and who has been always confined to home. But she started doing business by borrowing some money from her friend. So I would just say that I've seen hard work from her. I've seen a lot of passion from her and her determination that I have to ensure that my son is ready for future. So that's what was my childhood. Great memories, great learnings. There are a few things which I always keep in mind during those phases. Is one, very clearly that we are not by chance, but we are who we are today by the choices that we make.
Was getting into finance always a plan for you?
During those days, you didn't have that much of internet. You just decided your career by observing people around you. I was not as good student to take science, and arts was something which I knew how to do. So the choice left during those days out of 3 was commerce. And then I think by the time I was in class 10, I was sure that I want to do CA. Around class 8, 9, I started making up mind that I am a commerce guy.
Interesting. I think, at that time, there weren't too many, career opportunities overall, right? I think CA was one of the most coveted opportunities.
Very, very much. So in those days, if you had a CA in the lane, you'd know that yes, there is a CA.
Yeah.
Because there were not too many professions, and in commerce, CA was the most coveted role. And those days it was tough.
Yeah, I think it was almost similar to, how people look at IIT today, IIT JEE, and clearing IIT JEE is like a badge of honor. I think, and I come from a family of CAs, by the way. So, and I remember my dad, like, very proudly used to talk about how, I think it was in the 46,000 range when, of CAs when, the CAs came out.
It has always been. Even today, if you ask me, I think CAs are equally good. But the The opportunities have significantly increased, but CA still remain a very coveted role and something. Though both of my sons, they are into science.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I am an engineer, and the only engineer in the family. Within a family of CAs, I'm literally the only engineer right now. So I can see what your son feels, I imagine.
Yeah.
Since ONGC, of course, you donned multiple hats across companies, private sector, across FMCG and even pharma. Talk us a little bit through your journey across these companies over these years. How did you reach where you are today?
I have always been, I'll speak to you about 5 C's, but one of the C's is that I've always been very curious in my life since childhood, because I learned by observing people what to do and what not to do. So even in job, when I got into ONGC and subsequently, I've been very curious to do newer things which I don't know anything about. So most of the roles in my career, what I've done, if the role I have to define A to Z, I would say when I've taken the role, I would not have known if the role has to be defined within the characters, alphabets A to Z. I'm very confident that at none of the roles I knew more than D, if Z is the end of the role. So I got opportunity into ONGC, and then I started my career over there. In 3 years, I did 3 different roles over there, which is not very common in government jobs. You stay and you then continue to do very big roles. Then Hindustan Lever happened, one of the dream companies for, I think, most of the guys in India. So I was very fortunate. I went to factory. I did couple of years factory stint, one in Baddi and one in Nasik. And then I was given the branch role. So I was East India commercial finance head. Then I did an international stint, which none of the guys in industry can imagine, a commodity hedging role. And then I became a corporate event. So if you see the whole value chain, starting from procurement till sales, from procurement till the consumer product, the whole value chain, then risk management. So every alternate year I got opportunities to do something new. And that has been my journey. We can speak about it more, but that has been my journey.
And it's fascinating. You mentioned curiosity. I think in my conversations with leaders across the board, I think that's one trait that comes out consistently, right? They're just inherently curious about everything in life, and it reflects in the kind of roles they take up. It reflects in the kind of challenges they take up. I think those who stop being curious effectively end up plateauing in life anyway. So it kind of correlates, I believe.
Yeah. So I always say learning curve is the only earning curve. Till you're learning, you're actually earning.
Yeah.
Because that's something which is there, and that's thanks you brought the second C, challenge. Is a challenge which have always excited me in my career to decide what next I want to do. Because the moment I'm in my comfort zone, that makes me very uncomfortable. And that's a very very candid feedback I got from my even managers. Saying that, Narayan, learn to, it's a marathon.
Yeah.
You're running a sprint in a marathon. Slow down. But I keep on replying, let me run the sprint till I'm enjoying the marathon. The day I feel tired or burned out, I'll slow down my pace. But the reason of not burning out is because still I do things which I've never done in my career.
Yeah.
Till
that keeps it interesting.
Yeah, that keeps it interesting.
What has been your most enjoyable stint, you would say?
That would be very unfair. I mean, in the last 19 years, I've done, like I mentioned, various faceted roles. So in ONGC, 3 different roles, Levers 4 roles, then become a CFO of an Indian pharma company, India business, CIPLA, startup, and then one of the biggest scientific companies for the India, South Asia. So all the roles, to be very candid, it's something like Mumbai is my 12th city. And people ask me, not 12th, 9th city, sorry. People ask me, which is your favorite city? And I always say that it may sound as if I am being a bit diplomatic, but the matter of fact is that every city had their own charm. And if you ask me, every job, every role which I did, I was very excited when I took over that role, because like I said, out of A to Z, I only knew D. And that my curiosity and my urge to take a challenge and solve it, or something which none of the roles, if you ask me, are any small than whatever I've done. The first day in ONGC till date, I continue to do new things, or I continue to learn today. So the aspiration has always been, how can I become a better person of myself every day? And that's what keeps me inspired, motivated, and committed.
So let me reframe the question then. What is a role where you had the fastest learning curve or the greatest learning curve?
So if you ask me, as again, I would say in Hindustan Lever, whatever roles I did, I learned a lot from each of those roles, because they made me a complete end-to-end finance professional. So you have done make finance, you have done your business partner factory, your business partner, the sales and marketing team, you have done risk management, and then you have done FP&A role, which is more about doing financial planning and analysis. So that stint of those levers days was something, if you were to put gun on my head and didn't have to answer, I would say that that one was a role which that stint was something which, not one particular, but the whole stint was something which I admire one of the most.
And you also spent time in pharma, right? You've been at CIPLA and you've also been at PharmEasy. Talk to us a little bit about why, first of all, you transitioned from CIPLA to PharmEasy, and, how was the journey at PharmEasy like?
Very good journey, if you ask me. And again, why you very well by now know is the curiosity and the urge to take challenge. Because what I'd done in CIPLA over 3.5, 4 years, I've along with the help of my leaders and the board, at least for India business, we have made a future finance ready finance org structure. So I was looking for more challenges, and then PharmEasy happened. So great experience where you go back to the basics, you build a rock solid foundation, you start working on how can you. One thing which I would say that the entrepreneurship in India is unmatchable. So and the kind of young talent and young entrepreneurs like you are sitting in front of me, and you're
saying by now, so I don't know how young I am.
You may be coloring with the grey kind of you look more matured, but you don't seem to be like that. So the point is the entrepreneurial spirit and the young blood which is coming to entrepreneur, and I was stunned to see the kind of vision, the kind of ability to vision the future and actually execute it. We can all do the best of planning, but the real fun lies in execution of it. And I was stunned by the quantum of wisdom and the quantum of motivation which they had to create a difference and the entrepreneurial mindset. It was very good. And we did some good work over there in those at the time when I was in PharmEasy. But
yeah, interesting. How important do you think is it for a finance leader to truly understand the business side of things? Right now, you have obviously changed industries, and you gave the example of Unilever where you spend time across different departments and different parts of the value chain. One of the things that I'm very fascinated to think about is, should a finance leader, for instance, even drive a business for some time as an operator, perhaps come back to finance? So what should be the ideal career path for a person, if they eventually harbor the dreams of being a CFO? What do you think is the ideal career path?
So it depends. Everybody decides their own journey and they decide on their own path. So I can share what has been my journey, but it's everybody's choice what they do. Whenever anybody asks me that in a finance to become a CFO, what are the 3-4 important experience which one should have? So I would say one of the most critical is that you should understand the whole value chain of the organization. It's very important. If you don't understand how factories operate, if you don't understand what's the mindset of a sales and marketing team and how they operate,
Yeah.
and then on top of that, you have to even understand the basic of the accounting, taxation. So the controllership part of it, where you act as a custodian, you act as a controller.
Yeah.
And then while you've done all of that, then the other important aspect comes is your record you're basically how you are able to do the analysis, data analysis, how you are able to help businesses or the boards to take decisions on the basis of your analysis and support them in driving decisions. So those are 4 very strong pillars according to me: risk management, whole value chain, controllership, and then whole analytics part of it. But in all of this, I always say that one thing which I always keep on saying my team, finance is the only function. Finance is the only function which has got the complete enterprise-wide view. All the other functions are limited to that. So finance as a finance professional, we have an opportunity to look beyond what is our own any young professional's role is. He has the opportunity to look much beyond that. And hence to connect the dots and look beyond and try to find solution is what I think. And in that, you have to do a business partner. I mean, you don't have to force yourself to become a business partner. You by default become a business partner, because a business partner is somebody who has to interact with the business leaders, understand their problems, and then solve them by coordinating with all the multiple stakeholders and with data analytics and insights. So
that's an interesting one, and I try to sort of drive that in our own org as well. How do you keep the company interest in mind over your own interest or your team's interest or your functional interest? It's a tough behavior to drive, right? How do you achieve that? What's the how behind it?
So and whether it's by design or not by design, you have you call every function as divisions or departments. You by nature in the organization, you're dividing the organization into departments. So that nomenclature also somewhere I think should be changing. So it's always understanding the other's perspective. So whenever I moved into a new role, my first 3 to 6 months I spend is on understanding what are my stakeholders' challenges, what are my internal team's challenges. Prepare a list of them, and then I try to find out which are how critical they are and how long they have been waiting to get solved. And then that becomes a priority list. And once you start solving problems for your teams, for your colleagues, within department, within the organization, beyond your department, trust me, you start building that relationship. You don't have to work hard, means. And that how part, it depends a lot on the authenticity of what you say. Because people see you through your eyes and through your body language, what you are and who you are. And if you try to fast with your oratory skills, people will see you through. Because we all have a tendency to move towards the mean again. We may try to fast for a short time, but not. So the more authentic you are, the more transparent you are, the more you're looking and finding solutions for your teams, you'll build trust, and your how will be taken care of. I say how much you have to always keep on crediting in your bank of trust rather than pull them out.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I think that's the hardest part as well, right? Banking trust.
So the point which is very important to know is that if you are able to empathize with the person and you're treating him well, and if he or she is behaving in a manner, if as an individual I have the maturity to understand that how and why is he coming from,
what's their context?
Yes, what's their context? Then you won't react to them. You will then respond to them. And the challenge with most of us is that we give the remote control of our happiness in the hands of your reactions.
We already have a pre-decided response. And without really listening in, you end up reacting to...
So and that comes with maturity. That comes with your And that's something which I've seen since, on anecdote. I used to go to deposit checks in bank even before my height reached till the teller. So I knew how to speak. That's it. Life has taught me that, okay, this is how you speak and this is how you respect people and this is how you empathize.
Yeah.
And once you start doing that, then whole world is standing behind you.
Yeah. Right.
Because, sorry.
So, the point around authenticity is very powerful, right? And I think one of the best pieces of advice I received was from a colleague at, BCG earlier in my consulting days was, if you can bring your true self every day to the company, you will do your best work in life, right? And it's because, often what happens is your behaviors are shaped by what you think your boss will think of you or say, or, what your peers will think and say. But the moment you start just becoming who you truly are, it's hard, right, to break out of that shell. But that's when you start doing your best work.
And I would like to thank my managers for that. I don't recall in my last 19, 20 years, God has been kind on me again, and I never had managers who didn't let me who I am. And just one another anecdote. Out of my almost 20 plus years of experience, I think not more than 2 plus 2, 4. 4 years. Not more than 4 years, my manager has been sitting in my close vicinity. For the 16 years of my career, they've been sitting some distance away from me, not in the same building at least. So that has also given me that freedom. That has given me that sense of responsibility and purpose, that I'm not working because somebody is watching me to work.
Sure.
I'm working because I've got a task to finish. So another thing which I can tell you, I have a habit of waking up very early in the morning. I wake up around 4:35 a.m. in the morning. And I used to finish a lot of my work before I reached office, so that whole day I had time to engage with my team and external and other stakeholders. So if I'm working for my manager, then he won't even know that I've started working at 5 and finished all of my work by 8.
Yeah.
And then in office, I'm spending time with teams to understand their problems, solve for them. Since I was working for myself, and since I was working for the organization, and I had that sense of purpose and responsibility towards my organization, I continue to do that.
Yeah. And that's interesting. I think that's a good way to articulate, looking out for the organization's interest instead of KPIs necessarily, right? Just shifting gears a little bit, you've spent time at CIPLA and then at PharmEasy as well, right? Talk a little bit about both are pharma companies in their own way, and from in terms of your own experience and in terms of how fundamentally the companies were different, what were your biggest learnings when you contrast and compare the two organizations? Obviously, different stages of their lives, but let's say from a perspective of culture, from a perspective of, how decisions were taken. Could you shed some light?
So, again, most of those are impact of the life cycle of the organization. So, if you see in any big organization which is there for some time, they have got more processes set. They are not people driven. But in startup, I'm pretty sure in your case as well in your organization, it would be mainly people driven, where people take call that, okay, let's do it like this. It seems, and then the bias for action. Immediately somebody tells, let's do it, then everybody will come together and solve it immediately. Where in big organizations, you follow the process, you ensure that you're not digressing from some of the things. I mean, it's called freedom within framework. You define the framework or you define the Lakshman Rekha, and within that you have got the freedom to operate. Beyond that, you have to get into permissions. But here, it's more about you're defining the framework. And you're defining the framework. So till you don't know what's your Lakshman Rekha, you can go...
Keep pushing.
You keep pushing and you keep doing things. So that was one very big difference. And as you become more mature organization, you start defining the frameworks. You define a lot of work on finance, future finance. So in big established organizations, these functions are moving towards future of finance. Where here you're setting up the finance function. You're setting up the bricks and mortars, you are making it rock solid foundation.
Yeah.
So you are ensuring that there is no leakages happening, or you're more a controller side of the role rather than a business partner, because that's the foundation.
Yeah.
You have to ensure that your foundation is strong. Then you can build a home on top of it.
Yeah.
So their foundations mostly are there. You're building home. Here you're building a foundation. So that somebody else can build the home.
Yeah. One of the things that I always wonder is, startups, small or large, are known for how fast they tend to move, bias for action, like you said. Is, what prevents larger organizations from moving fast? Or do you feel, okay, let me frame it differently. Do you feel large organizations also move sufficiently fast, or do you feel these frameworks or these, do they end up tying people down in some ways? And I know it's necessary, but
no, I don't think. It means there has to be some. It's something like driving in a street. You can't say that a startup can cross red lights, and it will create more chaos. It will create more chaos. Rather, I remember as a kid there was a joke. So there was a fire, and there were two groups of people who were given two gates to get out of it. So one, they were fighting with each other and trying to nobody got out of that fire. Other, they created a line and went, everybody cleared it. So I always say that a break doesn't mean that you have to drive slow. Break gives you the freedom to drive fast.
That's a great way to put it. It's actually, and it's very apt actually in the current environment where, unfortunately we see corporate governance issues coming up in companies from time to time. And it's not that, they're always ill-intentioned. It's just that, they maybe moved so fast, they didn't put the necessary processes in place, did not give enough attention to governance.
Yeah.
But like you said, some of these, frameworks and processes actually allow you to run faster. And that's a great way to articulate.
And the other way is that what you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
So it may be also ignorance. It may be also they didn't knew about it. Way. So that's the other piece, which, there are many things which you don't know.
And I also feel sometimes the fact that there are these unknowns, that also makes a case for creating some of these underlying processes and frameworks so that you avoid the risk of
falling on the wrong side.
Yeah.
And that's why that framework is important. Again, freedom within the framework. That framework you define, and that you do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a journey. Rome was not built in a day. Similarly, all the startups go through that journey.
Yeah.
They have their own hits and misses. So there are only two ways you can learn. Either you learn from others' mistake, or you do it by yourself and learn it. So
fantastic. Breaks allow you to run faster or accelerate faster. So Narayan, I wanted to ask you, what do you feel is your proudest moment of your career? You obviously, I'm sure there are many, but if you had to pick, what would you say is your proudest moment?
If you ask me, my biggest achievement kind of thing, and something which I'm very proud in my career till date, it would be the way my teams have responded, the way I worked with the teams, the people management part of it, the talent management part of it. That has been something which gives me immense pride. I can tell you that many of my direct reports today are either CFOs or business or functional heads in many other organizations across sectors. So very clearly what comes in my mind is that how can I act as a catalyst in a solution where you become the part of the solution and you propel that solution to perform better without changing the solution itself. So, and I look myself like that. How can I help my colleagues, the whole team around me to start dreaming and delivering more than they would ever thought of? How can I give them a more broad perspective? The way my leaders have invested in me, how can I pay it back to people who are coming and working with me in giving them the whole broad spectrum of experience of finance function?
Yeah.
And that always helps the whole organization as well and the individual finance leader as well, because then the organization also it helps because you have got a backup, you have got support of.
But is there something that and this is it's a very powerful, notion, right? And how can you enable others to succeed? Can you give some examples of daily practices or, things that you've instituted in your life that allow you to enable others to succeed?
So let me give you whatever comes in my mind immediately. One, I don't want to name the organ. In one of my roles, I actually changed the role of, out of 8, 7 my direct reports at one go. Because many of them were doing the same role for last 5, 6, 7 years. And I remember my line manager calling me up, saying that, Narayan, it's a very big risk. And
having 7 of them report to you directly.
8 were reporting to me directly. Out of those 8, I changed the roles of 7.
Oh, you changed the roles?
Those 7.
Okay.
At one go.
Okay. Interesting.
And I recall my manager calling me up and saying that, Narayan, it's a risky proposition. So I said, who is going to suffer the most if I'm changing roles of 7 people? It's me. Who is putting the neck on the block? It's me. But I trust those 7 people.
That's a bold move.
Yeah. So 8th one also I wanted to move, but I realized that
And why did you do this? What prompted you to take that step?
Very clearly. See, at the end of the day, I'm a product of having different experiences. And I know inherent wish everybody has is that they want to do different roles. But it's usually the inability of the manager to take risk and punt on his people is where the organization suffers and that direct reportee suffers.
And but this is a great point you make, because there is a very clear trade-off here, giving exposures and enabling growth for the individuals versus taking a risk, which may pay off, which may not pay off for the organization. How do you make that trade-off?
Yes. So that's a very, very good question. So let me tell you. So I always look at teams as pillars. Okay. If I've got, say, 8 are pillars. And I always ask, Kamjor Kari Kaun? Which group of teams is the weakest?
Weakest link.
Not weakest link. Weakest in itself.
Right.
Because of lack of resource, or because...
Sure.
And I'm a firm believer that no resource is bad. And this is not a philosophical, this is my firm belief that no resource is bad. At the end of the day, that resource may be in the wrong bus, that is wrong organization, or in the wrong seat, that is a wrong role, or at a wrong time. No individual comes to office with a thing ki aaj to main screw up karke jaunga.
True.
Nobody comes like that.
Correct.
Everybody comes to office saying that I want to do something more for the organization.
Yeah.
So with that belief in the system, you find out which are the teams which are weak links. And then from the base, you start strengthening those teams. So every opportunity to refill a position, you hire a good talent, and then you strengthen that team. Once your base is strengthened, once the foundation is solid, then you can change the leaders.
So that's how you de-risk in a way.
In first year, I spent time in
creating the foundation.
If every team of say 4 or 5 has got one strong base, then when the leader moves, there are 2 things which happen. One is the leader gets a better exposure. Organization benefits because now there are 2 people who can do the job.
Yeah.
And third is the incumbent, the good resource, he gets opportunity to come to the limelight, come to the front rather than working behind it. Because the new manager will take some time to stabilize.
Yeah.
Till that time, that person can come and perform. And then he can be ready after 2 years for his promotion.
Yeah.
And if you don't put people on front, till that time many times you won't be able to know out of 10 people whom you have put in front, you think those are 10 best, but you can identify, you can differentiate between, like I say, boys and men. So you make those. So it helps the whole organization.
In
Hierarchy changes completely, not in terms of designation, but then you find new leaders.
yeah.
I
Great
remember
discovery process.
it's a great discovery process. You find new leaders, you find people who are ready to go beyond the job description, like we spoke earlier, who are ready to create their own job description.
And in all of this, do you also? I'm sure you would have, of all the people that you worked with, right? There would have been those who are truly great, great at what they do, right? So, what, according to you, has sort of differentiated the great ones from the the good ones?
Again, it's the what and how. I'm a firm believer that you can train people on what in a shorter time than you can train people on how. Because how is your aggregation of, like we spoke earlier, your past experience.
Yeah.
And so how do we react and how do we respond? So for me, the greatest difference between great and good ones is mainly on the how aspect, that how they are able to adapt and how they are able to respond to a crisis, a change, a chaos, or an opportunity.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Just ability to adapt.
Yeah, ability is how is once somebody told me that the true character of a leader or individual comes in the times of crisis.
Yeah.
Because then you are not able to fast or be in control. Then your natural self comes.
Yeah.
And in any stint, every year you will come at least 2-3 those situations. And you observe and you guide. And at the end of the day, making average to go to good is more satisfying, sustaining great talent. So you always need a mix of talent.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, nobody comes to office with the intent of, आज तो मैं screw up करके जाऊंगा.
Yeah.
It's you train them. I remember a few years ago there was a very young, very able candidate who had joined my team, and he was into something where I realized within 2 months of his joining that he is not doing to the best of his ability. So one day I called him and I gave him some advice. I won't say peace of my mind, but I gave him some advice and I showed him the mirror. And today, in whichever organization he is, he's doing very well over there. And even in my organization, for next 2-3 years, he was one of the best performers.
That's it.
So that gives you more satisfying. There have been times when people come and, to be very candid, there have been a couple of times when before resigning, they have come to and said that, Narayan, we are thinking of joining this organization. What's your opinion? You share with them. That's the trust, that honest conversation. When your team realizes that you don't have any ill for them, you're on their side within the ambit of organization greatness. Because at the first is the enterprise. Then, so within that ambit, within that framework, you always think well for people. So there have been times when a few of my 2 levels down, my indirect reports, they've come and we're looking at and I know the CFO of that company. Then I'll tell him, I'm exporting my talent to your company. Please take care of him. मेरा लड़का है या मेरी लड़की है, kind of.
Yeah, that's it's a tough thing to establish. I think being establishing that trust, but I think, like you said, the earlier point around authenticity, right? If you are authentic, I think people also open up to you a lot more. They know that you don't have hidden agendas. I think that's important. Narayan, tell me, you've spent now all this time in finance, right? How have you seen the finance function evolve over these years? Let's say 10 years ago versus today, right? What is different for the finance function?
So finance function as it is, and that's, I wouldn't say 10 years ago, even 20 years ago, would be more earlier, around 20-30 years. It was more about controlling. It was more about being custodian and all those part of it, accounting, tax, treasury, and all those stuff. MIS, manual MIS is just for war. But if you see over last, I wouldn't say 10 years, over last 20 years, there's a continuous evolution where finance is becoming active part of the decision-making tree. I won't say with data, but with actionable insights of data, because data in itself is nothing. Information is also nothing. Finance is able to convert data into insights and insights into actionable insights. Because like I mentioned earlier, the finance has got the whole enterprise.
Why did this happen? Why was this not possible earlier?
So obviously, evolution of technology is one of the key enablers. That is one. And second, I would say that still this journey is continuing. And so let me put it across. The controllership, the custodian part with the evolution of technology, a lot of it is starting to get automated. The processes are being taken care by the solutions which are being developed. And now finance has got more time
to focus on the more value-adding activities.
The more value-adding. And I don't see very far off. I know that even now, but you'll suddenly see that many of the CFOs will become CEOs. Even now there are many, but the quantum will keep on increasing where CFOs start taking lead in the business. Because a finance colleague from a very young part of his career is getting exposed not only to the custodian or controllership of the role, but along with that, he is taking active participation in understanding the business and creating value for the business.
That's a great way to think about it. And then what does that mean for the skill sets, that will be relevant, let's say 5 years from now? Because you talked about how technology is taking away the basic.
So I'm also preparing for that. I've enrolled myself for a Python course.
Oh, interesting.
And SQL. So I'm also trying to learn for that. Keeping that aside, means the skill sets will change. Again, technology can come and solve the mundane or the repetitive tasks. But technology, I don't think can today or even in future can do the influencing part. The man-to-man connect, the colleague-to-colleague connect, the woman-to-woman connect. That will always continue to remain.
So the EQ, the roles that require higher EQ potentially.
Not only EQ, even IQ for that matter. If I have to come and influence you to take some decisions, only EQ will not help me. I need strong data sets. I need strong understanding.
But there, just to play devil's advocate, how do you think artificial intelligence will play out? Because AI is now beginning to predict basis large data sets, able to infer things that, let's say, previously we didn't think it could do.
But all those predictions are based on some logics.
Sure.
They are based on logics of past.
Logics or even patterns, right?
Patterns of past.
Yeah.
And to a limited extent, they can, on the basis of past, they can forecast future. Correct? But it's then you get from different models, different sets of projections. Now, which is the most likely projections? What are the kind of inputs you are planning to put into to make those projections more stronger, more robust? And that requires discussion with your, if for a moment we are talking about revenue, that requires your discussion with the channel marketing team. That requires your discussion with the sales team. That requires your discussion with the marketing team. That requires discussion with the supply chain team. And that's where in the table, you bring all of these things together and you come out more than data. Because data is at the end of the day, a representation of past with a projection for future with some flexibility to maneuver basis that
So, you're right. I think it's a great co-pilot, so to speak, right? Where it can allow...
Enabler.
Yeah.
It's not a replacement.
It's not a replacement. I think it just allows you to take decisions faster. Something that would have taken a lot longer can enable you to do that faster, perhaps.
So I always say my team, sorry to interrupt, I always say my team that anything which is repetitive for more than 1 hour in a week should be automated. That's my benchmark rule kind of thing. Whereas anything which is repetitive, non-judgmental, should be automated.
Yeah.
Where the human will come is on taking judgmental decisions and making and enabling and bringing all stakeholders together and influence to take the right decision for the organization.
In this context, what would be your message to finance leaders who then worry about automation taking away jobs and, their teams worrying about their own future? How do you sort of address that concern?
I have been part of many automation projects, and to be very candid and transparent, I don't think anywhere we have lost jobs. The perspective of the role changes.
Sure.
So, say for example, theoretically, and this with practical example, there's a big MIS team which is preparing Excels or reports and all those things. You automate it in one of the BI tools, be it Power BI, Click, Tableau, or any other. And then that team starts thinking, what am I required to do? Am I going to lose job? The answer is a big no. You are what gory work or what a lot of manual work you were doing, now you have translated and transferred it to
Technology.
technology. Now you've got more time to pull out insights from that data.
But then that becomes a question of capability also, right? Like, are they capable to do that?
According to me, again, capability is an outcome of the intent. And I have not seen people where they don't have intent or where they are not. I would say human is the most agile, or that's why we have survived the maximum. Because we are able to adapt to the change in the environment.
Yeah, which also goes back to your point around, the great ones end up adapting, right? I think.
No, and it's a survival.
Yeah.
I mean, great ones adapt because they want to become bigger. But here they adapt because they want to survive.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So automatically...
It may sound harsh, but that's the reality.
Yeah, fair. In terms of, the kind of... If you had to talk about 2 or 3 key skills or traits that, a finance professional should imbibe over the coming years, given all of what technology is doing, right? Anything specific that, you would recommend?
See, again, I would try to generalize it, which was always there, and with the technology being an enabler, it should be there, is look beyond obvious. Connect the dots. Now, these things technology have enabled it. And these are important things.
Is that something you check for, even when you're interviewing people? What is it that you look for today when you're hiring people?
So, again, when I'm hiring people, first and foremost thing I look into their cultural fit into the organization. You can give them the best role and they may be capable to doing it. But usually people feel frustrated at when they don't find the culturally working well. So that's one thing very important for me. Second is obviously, and that given and understood that they are and the respect, concern, experience to do that role.
Yeah.
Function. But again, I have in few cases I've taken even punt where I have moved a taxation head to a business partnering role, and he has done wonders. So again, one is, so there are 2 things which we studied in economics in first chapter: willingness and ability. So, is he having the willingness to change and learn and adapt, and is he able to do that? So, ability is something about his skill sets, his technical part of it. And then willingness is his soft part of it, whether he can maneuver around it.
Yeah.
So usually in my interviews, first 15 minutes would be on hardcore technical skills, and balance 25-30 minutes would be more on how part of it, how they have managed the challenges, what is their stresses, what are their strengths and weaknesses. None of us are perfect. So everybody has got their strengths and weaknesses. So identifying whether the strengths meet the requirement of the role and the organization, and those weaknesses, whether they hamper the organization. Because at the end of the day, it's like a marriage. It may not be a lifetime marriage, but it's like a marriage where it's both sides have to see value in it.
True.
And
You
that's very important.
Do you have a favorite interview question you like to ask when you're hiring people?
So, for me, if you ask me, one thing which I always check is on the integrity score.
Integrity.
Yes. That's something which is non-negotiable to me.
How do you check for that?
So, there are few questions. I don't want to say, if people listening, they will come to know. No, but on a serious note, they are. You build up scenarios and then you ask them. And you build up a scenario where they can fall to it. So, till you are not high on integrity, you will...
So these are not obvious answers.
No, not obvious.
These require ethical trade-offs.
Yeah, it requires ethical trade-off. It will, you put the value of gains versus the cost of expense, you differentiate significantly.
Yeah.
And then that cost of expense seems insignificant to the gain. And if he catches on this lash, that means he's ready to compromise on his principles.
That's a nice one. It's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. So that's there, and yeah.
Should we, there's one segment that I really enjoy doing, which is rapid fire. Perhaps I can indulge you in some rapid fire questions.
Do we hear some Karan Johar kind of
hampers? You have a hamper waiting for you. Don't worry about that.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's start with this, right? You have a stressful job, I'm sure. What do you do to unwind on a weekend or after work?
To be very candid, my unwinding since very young age, or actually after I started working, has been my family. They are my key strength of pillar. My mom, my wife, Shweta, and my 2 boys. So it's a small family, 5 of us. And the once I'm at home, by God's grace, I've got the switch off, switch on button. I can switch off myself and they help me to switch off because their faces help me a lot of unwinding. Second is watching news. News is my second love, and third is my cricket. These are the 3 things which help me unwind. But yeah, if you ask me, the core is the family. So weekends, I'm very busy with the family. And there was a time when for my eldest son, I was a chauffeur on Saturdays and Sundays from 6 a.m. in the morning till 2 p.m. in the afternoon.
The fact that you're able to compartmentalize, I think that's one of the key things, right? I think as you sort of also grow in a career, it becomes all the more important for you to be able to switch off, switch on at the right times, because
at the end of the day, I remember somebody used to tell me, ask me question, work-life balance. What is work-life balance? I say giving priority to work when it needs it, giving priority to family when it needs it.
Yeah.
You can't differentiate saying that this is my work time, this is my personal time.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
So, over the last 10 days, I had some important meetings. We were working almost 12, 14 hours a day, even on Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
But now, I'm on a Friday evening, I'm sitting here with you.
Yeah.
So, you can very clearly manage the peaks and troughs.
Yeah.
And see how, and plan for it.
Yeah, I love it. I think giving priority to work when it needs it, giving priority to family life when it needs it. Yeah. I think if you can strike that, then that's balance, right? I think.
So, I always tell my both the sons, saying that during exam days, you take 2 hours break to play. So, why during vacations, you can't take 1 hour break from play and study?
What answer do you get?
They do that.
They do that, is it? That's fantastic.
It's the power of habit.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the last book you read?
So now, to be very candid, after Audibles, I'm more into audible listening because that gives me audibles.
Yeah.
I don't want to promote anyone. Basically, reading rather than reading, I'm more into hearing books.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing a book on elements of coaching.
If you could have dinner with any leader in the world, who would it be?
Many. I wish. I wish. But in finance fraternity, somebody whom most of us across globe admire would be Warren Buffett. So If any day in life I get opportunity, it will be there, but only time will tell.
What is the one quote or mantra that keeps you driven in life?
Becoming better every day than what I was. Don't try to compare yourself with others. Either it will make you feel that you're God's gift to mankind, or it will make me feel as if I am good for nothing. The most important thing is that how can I become a better person, both as a human being and as a professional every day, and keep on looking for new challenges and solving for them.
Fantastic. What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
On finance,
In general.
is that what you are today, you are not by chance, but by the choices you make. For tomorrow, you have to make choices today.
Yeah,
And like I'm sitting here, I've got 5 choices.
sure.
I chose this. So it's by the choice. And if we make the right choice, then there will be a chance which will help us, because on that day we'll be prepared for it.
Yeah,
Then people say you're lucky, but it's not that. It's before that chance, a month, 2 months, or a year back, or a week back, or
made some
3 years
choice.
back, you made some choice.
yeah. Is it basically deliberate living, right? You gotta.
I'm diabetic from the age of 28.
Yeah,
And today I'm 43, 44, so almost 15 years, 16 years. I have reversed my diabetes 6 months back. I said,
wow,
now enough is enough. I
that's
said,
amazing.
20 साल जीप के हिसाब से खाए, अब आने वाले 20 साल शरीर के हिसाब से खाएं.
That's amazing. That's incredible. I mean, that's not easy to do, I can imagine.
And for a Maru, it's even more difficult.
Yes. If you weren't in finance, what profession would you be in?
If I weren't in finance, I would be very clearly be an entrepreneur. That's something which
Is that the Marwadi genes?
I don't know what genes it is. Is it the Marwadi or what genes? But it's something which I always wanted to do. And I was very clear with the kind of responsibilities that I have and the kind of financial system I had.
Yeah.
I didn't have that risk appetite.
Yeah.
Once I'm free, but time will tell whether I take that plunge or not. But yes, that's something which I am confident on.
That's fantastic. Finally, what is the one piece of advice you would want to give to let's say a new CFO?
Any new CFO, I would say that first is very clearly build a strong team, because that's very important. Build a team which trusts you and whom you trust. Then I always tell, find those pot of goals from the inefficiency. But while doing that, you have to always not forget your fundamentals, which is your controllership and custodian of the assets, the liabilities, the reserves and everything. But yes, make it future finance ready. They are, how can you partner with the business in the competitive, responsible, sustainable and profitable growth.
Fantastic. Great, Narayan, thank you so much. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up for today. This has been an incredibly insightful conversation. So I really appreciate you taking out time to do this with us.
No, I would like to thank you very much for inviting me. This is my first podcast, to be candid, and I hope it's not the last one.
For sure.
But thanks for giving me this opportunity, and thanks for giving me opportunity to share my experiences. I hope even if 1% hears it, it would be helpful. Even if I can make a difference to 1%, it would be great work, which I would have done today.
No, I'm sure it will be, and I'm sure we'll have more such conversations.
No, for sure. Looking forward to it.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you.